Hi guys, how are you? So I've been trying to get this video out to you guys for the past week and it has been so unbelievably hectic. Task after task after task, and then by the time the end of the day comes, I'm like, oh my god, I have to make this video. And it's all of this phone space and this and that. Definitely energies that I would say are really ruffling things up so you can see how important certain things are to you. And I think that that's a big theme here. So today, July 10th, Jupiter went direct from, I believe it was 4 months in retrograde, with a couple previous months as well in pre-shadow. So that being said, I wanted to share my experience with you guys because I know that I've been making a few videos here and there, and I also wanted to share some personal things along the way of this journey that I decided to take, because I think it's important to keep things authentic and organic. And if I'm going to give advice, I definitely need you guys to see it from my perspective of what I'm dealing with in my own life, so that way you can know why I say the things that I do. And to be so open and honest, it's almost like even therapy for me in ways, when I'm usually the person that's always being therapeutic for others. So this is definitely different, but I'm excited to open this up to you guys. So first, I would like to pretty much take the time to go over the placements in general, where Jupiter transited in my birth chart and where the retrograde began, and if there were any other planetary influences that also applied to my experience. I think if you bear with me to explain them, it will be in great benefit, because then you would understand exactly how it all applies. Many times in this video I also say values. I would definitely say values would go hand in hand with how I felt about my beliefs. I feel like I was really able to look at both situations in this experience, and for that I couldn't be more grateful. So first and foremost, let's just talk about Jupiter so you can get a hint of what it is. So Jupiter is actually the planet that symbolizes like the guru of the planets. Guru or guide of all of the planets that we have in our planetary system. It is the largest planet in the solar system. It represents expansion when it comes to your birth chart. So it talks about, you know, wherever you have Jupiter in your natal chart, that's really where you expand the most as a person when activated. So for example, I have Jupiter in the 5th house, so in creativity I'm really able to expand as a soul. I'm really being able to utilize the things that, you know, all the things I've learned and all the teachings that I've received, and I can really interject it into my creations. 5th house also has to do with children, so I'm able to do the same thing. Once I have children in the future, I will be that person, that parent that will take all of that, the knowledge that I've received, and pass it on to my children. I learn a lot in romance, apparently. But basically that's what Jupiter in the 5th house would be an example of. That being said, Jupiter transited my 9th house for this whole time that it's been in Scorpio so far. I have Scorpio in the 9th house. I also have Pluto in the 9th house, depending on where the degrees are and where it's traveling at. Within 10 degrees close to Pluto makes it extremely conjunct, and the energy is a lot more of an impact when it's closer. And I had it conjunct to my natal Pluto. So Pluto is all about that death and rebirth of Scorpio. It's about detoxing in certain areas, going beneath the surface, and in many ways it talks about our desires and what it takes for us to really want something, usually coming from an area in our life where we haven't experienced it, or we have a want towards something because we don't have it yet. So if you can imagine taking the energy of putting Jupiter and Pluto together, it's almost like creating expansion through detoxing and going beneath the surface and pulling everything out that you don't necessarily need, so that way it can be replaced with that knowledge and replaced with that experience of whatever you're dealing with, so you can really download and process all the information that you are learning from it. And it sounds probably fairly simple. No, that is not the case at all. Not to even mention, you're also going in retrograde now at this point. I believe that Jupiter traveled from 13 degrees and 21 minutes of Scorpio, you know, when it was in its pre-shadow, and it traveled further to around like 23 degrees or something like that in Scorpio, and then as soon as it hits that 23 degrees, then it starts to go back. And that's exactly what happens in a retrograde. It's not necessarily going backwards, it's taking a route that goes back towards that 13 degrees. And taking that route going towards that 13 degrees is during its retrograde period. So it looks at all of the things that have happened between the time of the 13 degrees and, you know, the 23 degrees. It also looks at things that happened before, whatever the case may be, but it looks back is the point. And then once it looks back, then once it hits again at that 13 degrees, then it starts going direct. So, and then it hits its post-shadow completion when it hits that exact 23 degrees again, because that way in that moment it's able to go forward. At that point, it's all for the greater good. You know, all these experiences of retrograde are pretty much what I tell people is like going into an office at your job and them giving you a review of everything that you've done for the past 3 months or year, or however many months or time period, a time frame that they use for review periods. And some people even do quarterly. So quarterly would really represent that Mercurian energy of the retrogrades, because that's something that's definitely done a little bit more often. But once you understand what you have learned during that process of the retrograde, it now goes direct. So basically, when you think of the ninth house is actually ruled by Jupiter. So being that Jupiter is actually standing for our gurus and teachers and our knowledge, it was already in a place where it was pretty much at home. The only thing is now it's in retrograde. So ninth house doesn't just stand for our gurus and knowledge and different things like that. It also stands for like long distance travel. It's the Sagittarius house of Jupiter, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. So Pisces is 12th house, and that stands for subconscious and dreams and spirituality and things that are above the nature of the materialistic world and realm. And 9th house stands for the long distance journeys that it requires to get to that knowledge that's way past our neighborhoods, which is the opposite of Sagittarius. That's Gemini. So Sagittarius is not afraid to go out into the world and to experience everything that it needs in order to soak in the information to then bring it back and create, even taking it down to groups or cults or anything else that it can, you know, pass on this information to and be its natural born leader that it really, really is. 9th house also represents our father's teachings, because public persona is in the house of the 10th house, and 10th house stands for pretty much what our father did as a career. And usually in traditional senses, man would go ahead and do whatever their father did, and it was passed down, royalties from the father. So, you know, I really never had a moment in my life with Pluto being in my 9th house where I wasn't concerned with what's underneath, what's beneath the surface, what this world really actually means, the deeper meaning, way past what they show you in media, way past what you see in your local neighborhood, which is so ironic because it really has to do with that opposite of Gemini energy. I never believed even what's just here in our backyard. That being said, this is where Jupiter transited. this first half of the year was definitely an eye-opener. Every experience has its catalyst. Every experience has something to trigger something new or trigger something that needs to come to light. The pre-shadow of Jupiter's retrograde began on December 26th, and I had an incident that occurred on December 17th. Now, I previously made a video about this and I posted this on Facebook, but for those that don't know, I was new to Philadelphia. I only knew a few people. I came into Philadelphia and I was very lucky to meet someone who guided me through my first couple of months. Unfortunately, we did not have a great ending to our connection, or just the fact that we ended a connection at all was very bothersome. And other than that particular person, I was working in a salon and I only knew a few women who I was very lucky to meet as well. Through that experience, I really felt disconnected to who I normally was. I came from New Jersey and I spent a year in Bensalem, PA, and before I even moved to Philadelphia. And even in Bensalem, I was able to make some friendships, but I was still close to home from Jersey, and I always went back to Jersey. And it was really hard for me to, I guess, leave the nest, because for me, in a way, I was Miss Popularity back at home in New Jersey. I worked in bars, I was doing hair and makeup, and I knew so many people and built so many connections and relationships that it was really hard for me to be in a new place and not know anyone. Although I really appreciated the privacy, you know, anytime that I would just want to have a conversation, or I would want to experience an art exhibit, or want to experience a night of music, I had no one to call on. And it was very tough for me, because although I really loved going places by myself, at the same time I was aware that I was in a new city, and regardless of the fact that there's so much gentrification, at the end of the day, Philly still has its pockets that are still not the safest. And as a person, not even as a female, as a person who did not know all the time where I was going, I wanted to be true to understand that. I wanted to be honest with myself. So I decided to go to a bar, and I figured that if I, you know, which might have been silly for some people, they might have thought I was silly. I honestly didn't think so at the time, but it was a gay bar, and it was down the street from my house, and it was at 6 p.m. and I figured this was the perfect opportunity for me to go ahead and to pursue practicing my craft, which was singing. So I went to 6 p.m. karaoke at this bar, and I ate twice and only bought 2 drinks. I only brought $20 to purchase those 2 drinks. And in that time, I was there for 3 hours, and I had 1 shot at the end of this, and within what seems like seconds, I couldn't even comprehend what was going on around me. And I had 1 drink per hour, so it was really interesting for me to go into like being completely comfortable, and then just out of nowhere, I couldn't even sing. I was called up to sing on stage. I couldn't read the words. They felt bad because I was singing the entire night. So I remember very slightly that the host said, or give her the song that she sang before, and I couldn't even remember the lyrics. And this is a song that I sang for so many auditions, and I just couldn't even get the words out of my mouth, and I didn't understand how. Like I didn't even understand to understand. All I remember is paying my tab. I remember picking up my phone, and I said something to my best friend that I would never say, and before I knew it, I was like, oh my god, I think I got drugged. I do not feel like myself. After that moment, I don't even remember what happened. Apparently, I called my best friend. I don't even remember getting home. I remember at one point I tried to reach out and text someone, and I literally just remember lights just going past me, and I didn't even know where I was standing. I didn't know what was happening, but I just remember after that, I woke up, I had a crazy like breath, like I was coming out of some kind of water, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning. And I had no idea what was going on. I had no clue. My clothes were on the floor. There was, sorry to be graphic, but there was like, I guess I tried to eat some, I don't even know, but there was food that was like all over my floor. I threw up in my bathroom. It was like the most scariest experience that I've ever been through. And I didn't understand what happened to me. And more things that are very detailed that I won't get into occurred that really scared me. And I didn't really know what to do. I just started to cry. And from that experience, all I know is for the next 3 days, after going through my phone and seeing that I reached out to somebody, and I don't want to take it, further than what was said here, but after reaching out and knowing that that particular person that I built a bond with did not help, did not even care, it really put me in a dark space in my life. And lo and behold, I did not know, because I'm still studying astrology as we speak every single day. And at that time, I was so clouded that I didn't even pay attention to the retrogrades. But I didn't know that this was the beginning of Jupiter in retrograde for me. This was the beginning, the catalyst that began the pre-shadow. And through that, I just remember these were my darkest days of questioning everything that I am, everything that meant something to me. I mean, I naturally, as I stated before, I have always had a yearning to see the deeper meaning, and this was the first time in my life that I was scared of the deeper meaning. This was the first time in my life that curtains were unveiled from my own personal self, my subconscious, deep down in my soul, things that I have never seen before. Curtains were just swiped from me, and I was able to see these dark places that I just didn't even recognize. I wasn't even aware of. And I remember for the next 3 days, all I wanted to do was just like put my head down and sleep, because I just felt so negative and depressed and just in dark ways. And that was just the beginning of me figuring out who I am today. My biggest issue out of the whole situation was mainly that I never gave up on anybody in my life. Many times I've had conversations about how I've always felt like there is no such thing as bad people. I feel as though there's only people that are going through pain, and they don't necessarily have the means of having someone there to talk to about it, or there's just so much pain that has happened previously in their past that it's just caught up with them to the point where they make really negative actions. But the thing that hurt me the most out of the situation was more so I spent time with this individual. I built a bond with them, and I would hope that with that bond they wouldn't have left me stranded. Having that situation happen where you are alone and you don't know what's going on, or anything worse could have happened that I still don't really have answers to till this day. It took me everything in the world to report it to the bar. I had to go through procedures of getting tested just to make sure that everything was good, that I wasn't, it was a very uncomfortable moment in my life. And I just, looking back on when I was within those 3 days, looking back on it, I just didn't understand how someone I built such a bond with could have been so narcissistic to just pretty much tell me to take myself to the hospital. I read the text later and telling me to take myself to the hospital and not answering the phone. And those are not things that I would do to somebody in that situation, no matter how much I was angry at them or how much, you know, there was a misunderstanding. Still to this day, I have no idea what led that person to doing that, but I just would have never in lifetime would have thought that for them to be that cruel. Going back and looking at how things even ended with me and that individual was something that really sparked this catalyst with what happened during this Jupiter in retrograde, what brought me back. I was told that my career wasn't really practical. It was pretty much expressed as if it was a silly career, and it was quote unquote an emotional decision of mine to pick a career like tarot or pick a career like astrology that worked on someone else's emotion, healing others' emotions, rather than worrying about my own emotion. I felt as though my career was not respected, and it's been something that I've been battling with for years now. I was told that I was too intense. Something I've been told so many times, as if it's something negative to be intense, to be able to impact people or be able to cause someone's energy to rise enough to make a difference in them, or to point out a smile in them that they may not be used to, or to point out something inside of them that they need to confront. And I don't understand how that could be negative. I have been fighting for this career for so long. I have been fighting for acceptance, not even just with other people around me, but necessarily for myself. It's not easy being a person that you want to know, you're so obsessed with the deeper meanings in life, but then when you crack it open and you find a passageway that gives you answers, it's not always easy to talk to people about that, because some people are just not ready, and some people's concern is so focused on what's going on in the matrix. They're not concerned about what this all really means. They're not concerned with having maps in order to get further and understand what the process is actually bringing for them, so they don't feel so overwhelmed and so sometimes stuck. To be given a gift like that and to feel as though I wanted to share that with someone was extremely difficult and very nerve-wracking. And that person was the first person that came in my life during a time when I was just so tired of just living the regular life that I was living, the mundane, and not listening to my intuition telling me what to do with my life, telling me to utilize my gifts for something that was going to be of a greater good. I expressed the importance of me even moving to Philly to be able to fulfill that. Leaving from my comfort zone in New Jersey and taking a year into Bensalem, but then moving into a city that I could save and really be able to hone in on what my gift really is and reach out to a community that is more accepting towards it. My leap to come to Philly was because of that. I just happened to meet this person in the process, and although I am very grateful for them helping me while I moved into Philly, it hurt me that even though we did not end off in the most positive note, that when it was a dire situation, they were not there. And yet again, I was there for them. So to be put in a situation where I questioned everything I've come to believe till that point, because of a bond, this experience woke me up a lot more than I was prepared. I am an amazing human being. I am humble about being the strong person that I am. I take on so many things mentally, whether it's healing other people or picking up energies from other people, being able to hear conversations before they're even spoken. I have a gift, but with that gift comes the responsibility of handling the darker side of it. And I think a lot of people don't understand that sense about being such an intense person. I was comfortable with my intensity at one point. I was excited about it. The things that I would read in my birth chart, I was proud to hold the description of. I felt remarkably undefeatable with a lot of things that many people allowed themselves to plummet with. Not that I was any better than those people, but just that the pain that it took, the pain that I endured to be able to step one foot up on the next step, it was a means for congratulations for me in many ways. And I was proud of myself for being able to do that. And I would never think that anything in this world would ever question that, because I'm so stubborn. I'm fucking stubborn. When I'm in my beliefs, I'm in my beliefs. I'm so open to hearing everyone else's, but I'm so firm with my own. And if someone adds something onto that and complements it, I definitely open arms with a great invitation, but I don't let someone break me down. I don't let things break me, break my spirit, break my faith for other people who would normally allow their own spirits to break. I'm that person who is there to make sure that they understand that they are strong, to remind them of the things that make them stand and the things that make their purpose valuable in this world, in this realm. But to get to this place and to get to that confirmation, I always needed someone else to tell me, and for the first time after these months that have went by, I don't. It took the process of questioning who I was, of questioning why I didn't matter, why I didn't mean something in that moment, no matter how angry someone could be, why my safety did not mean something or wasn't valued. Never mind all the things that you could do for someone or the experiences that you've had, but I mean, I could dislike a person's personality and still understand that they're just going through a process, they're going through a simulation, and you can't judge someone for being wrong in situations when they're learning or they're giving their all. And I just couldn't understand why that wasn't given back to me. I couldn't understand why I always had to prove myself. It just brought me back into the years of situations with relationships or friendships and even family where I felt like I just put out so much and nobody wanted to give me that same ear in return or wanted to take in the fact that I am also someone going through an experience in this world. I didn't understand how people couldn't understand what intensity felt like. It's such a powerful feeling when you have this whirlwind of energy inside of you, especially like depending on what that energy is. I have so much Scorpio inside of my birth chart, so it's just like I imagine this whirlwind of just blue magical fire just stirring up inside of me like a tornado and just ready to be aimed at something and really carry that energy of the magician, ready to be charged at something in such a beautiful phoenix rising from the ashes kind of way, where it's just, evolves. And to think that I questioned that, I laugh at it now. Going through that experience also helped me understand that it starts within. Peace starts within. What you're subjected to starts within. You can have somebody that comes at you in a certain way or says something to you and you just kind of look at them like, okay. And you're not subjected to pain that that could cause or the insecurities it can cause because it just simply is silly to you, or it's beneath the energy of the vibrational frequency that you are vibrating off of. So it's just like, you look at it and you're like, you just let it pop off your chest. It's nothing major. But when you care about someone, when you really genuinely care and take value in what they say or how they view something, you're subjected to what they think of you, what they think of your own beliefs. You know, we can sit there and pat our chest all day, you know, pat your chest all day and say to someone like, I don't care what you say. And that's ego. But when you really, really, really care about somebody, it's either going to do one or two things. It's either going to hurt you that they see you in a different light than what you're giving, or it's going to motivate you to say, I deserve better. And all in all, it really stems from the idea that you care. But then you have to ask yourself, what do I care about the most? What actually is inside of me to make me care? What are the things that I value that are making me look at what this other person values and say to myself, you have to listen to them. You have to take in what they're saying. What are those things? And there's honestly a beauty in you caring about what the person says. But when it questions your own beliefs is when you need to ask yourself, should this override everything that I've grown to know? What I've been taught by my gurus, what I've been taught by my pastor or my preacher or the priest or my parents, my father or my mother, different people that I've met that have given me the outside information, foreigners. You know, what overrides that? Why? What is it about that person? To ask yourselves these questions is to actually open a door where you're honest with yourself and you say to yourself, why are my values my values? Why do they mean something to me? You know, it actually did go in conjunction with the same thing of what I've always felt. What's the deeper meaning to this? Who am I and what am I? And what about my story has come to light this fire of energy that is going to make me jolt forward? This burning blue fiery energy. What is it about me that deserves it? What is it about me that allows it to stay inside of me? Then I discovered a little voice that kept saying to me, difference. The ability to go against the norm, the ability to rebel against conformity, and the ability to be totally fine with it. That Aquarius archetype, that's what made my fire inside of me. My rising sign, my north node, Aquarius. Where I'm trying to get to, understanding detachment, to look around you from a distance and really be able to see what everyone needs and to be able to be of value to the community. Taking the hit of people constantly saying to you, no, that's not gonna work, no, you're crazy, you know, everything that they would say to probably Einstein, or I'm pretty sure they've said to like Michael Jackson or something, like anything that was different, and someone would say no, that's so far out there, right? That energy is what made me spark that inner fire. And in a way, I remember there was a post that I actually made, and it was a candle. I remember this candle, and there were 2 flames. There were 2 wicks in the candle, and one of the wicks were, every time I lit it, it was just this energy of it not really like illuminating. It wasn't allowing itself to really push into that beautiful flame that it really could be. And the one next to it was just reminding me of that fire that I had inside of me at one point, and how it was like I knew that my light was still there. I knew it. I knew my pilot was still lit, but it wasn't the same fire that I've always had. Something was keeping it low. And over months, I was angry. I was so upset. I went from anger to getting up and being like, I'm gonna use the anger, right? Because then you think of the Mars energy, and the Mars, I'm speaking of Scorpio, that inner fire, but the other side of the Mars is the Aries. So I naturally have this energy where I'm like, well, I'm gonna switch it, and I'm gonna go towards that like assertive energy, and I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna do things. And I started getting into open mic again. Took a break for a really long time from singing, and I just didn't want that to happen again. So I kept going to open mic, but I was bugging. Like I could not stop looking at my drink, even water. If water was taken off of the post while I was on stage, I mean, I've literally was crying for water in my head and my mind. And I had someone that I know pass me water, and I didn't even want to take it because I couldn't see it being poured and passed to me. But I held on to that. I held on to still sing because I was fearful that I had come so far. And although I was being able to practice my craft in this area and was violated, it didn't necessarily mean that I should just quit what I loved. And I knew that there was a possibility that it could have went there if I didn't get up and go. So I definitely went right to continue my open mics. And I knew that I also didn't want to cut off opportunities for me to meet different people just because one person hurt me. It just wasn't fair to me either. So for the next couple months, I channeled in a lot of solitude, a lot of staying away from crowds unless I was singing or unless I was meeting somebody for music. I needed to be in my thoughts. And the craziest thing is that a lot of people say, why would you want to be in your thoughts if your thoughts were what was harming you at one point? And then I constantly remember that Beyonce line, that your torture becomes your remedy. Being in that solitude allowed me to really remember the reasons why I was who I was. I just seen the movie A Wrinkle in Time, and it really reminded me of that moment in those 4 months when it really hit me. The main character, she asks one of the spirit guides in the movie, she declares that she doesn't want to go back to school because she's not seen in a positive way. She doesn't want to go back to school because she's teased. And Oprah Winfrey actually told her in the movie that for all the things that have happened in the universe up until now, for the very moment of her being born, had to mean something magical, had to mean that there was definitely a purpose for her being there. All the things that have occurred, all the people that have been born for that moment that she was created. There's a reason for that. And I felt like along my way, I started to notice that idea. I mean, I've seen the movie recently, but even experiencing the retrograde, and this was towards the end of the retrograde, it really put me back in that position where I said to myself, there's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I was born at the time I was born, with the screenshot of the planets the way that they were. There's a reason why I'm so intense. There's a reason why I went through the things that I went through in the past to get me to where I am now. There's a reason why I just went through what I went through. And once I really started to realize that, I started to feel better. I started to breathe again. And my values were becoming noticeable again. I wasn't, the fog was kind of dispensing and light was coming, and slowly my fire was getting larger and larger and larger. It was getting to that point of where it felt normal again. It felt like me again. But then I noticed that it started getting a little bit past that. It started getting a little bit hotter and a little bit larger and towards spreading outside of me. And it was uncomfortable. And sometimes I questioned it, but I went with it. I went with it, and after I went with it, I had this burning desire to say, I remember being that little girl who has always been so different. And everything that I learned, now it's almost like I get to add it to my inventory of things that I've collected, of lessons and experiences that I have now accepted the invitation to understand. And the moment that I started elevating past even my norm, I was starting to feel even more powerful than I've ever been. I began to stop questioning my love for astrology and stop questioning my love to heal and stop questioning my intuition. Stop questioning that, I became a tarot card reader. Stop questioning my ability to actually see what my spirit guides wanted me to tell whoever I was reading. And I stopped questioning it because I realized that the energy that these people were giving me was the complementing energy that I always wanted. It was the energy that I always craved for from the people around me growing up. The acceptance, the trust, the openness, and the invitation for me to share my gift with them. I was subjected to that beauty. I was subjected to that feeling of new air coming over me. By all means, I accepted the invitation. I wanted to feel that way for those people. So badly, I wanted to feel that way for people in my past and feel that way for the person that hurt me. But through the pain of not being accepted, I learned how to accept myself. I learned how to be strong within my values without needing validation from anyone else. And I learned how to request the things that I needed to be able to manifest more opportunity and more resources that would help me to continue this voyage. The resources that allow me to be able to take this practice outside of just my local area, outside of my neighborhood, and actually extend it past that to places that I can't actually touch physically right now, but that I could touch spiritually. And because of that, I can almost thank every single person that has doubted that within me. They say forgiveness is really for you. It's not for anyone else. And I don't hate anybody that has made me feel lesser than who I am, but in a weird way, I kind of love them for it, because it gave me the invitation to love myself. And I wish those people who have ever harmed me in the past or didn't believe in me the ability to one day experience what I've experienced. Lots of times people don't believe in you because it's hard for them to believe in themselves, or they don't understand you but don't take time to because they haven't really even figured out their own language. And it's okay to love those people, even though they didn't show love to you, because it's maturity. And it's realizing that we are all in this together. We don't have to be attached to be connected. And everyone is in the process of learning. And to truly accept that means that you can accept your own invitation, because you deserve to learn just as much. We're here for that. And one lifetime is not even enough for all the things that you can take in. So cherish, forgive, value, believe, and have faith. And that was my experience of Jupiter transiting in my 9th house with a 4-month retrograde. And I am so excited to experience Jupiter in direct after everything that I've learned. So, thanks guys for listening, and I hope you guys can resonate in some ways. And if I can answer any questions, message me, call me, get in touch with me, and I'll answer. Thank you. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at sukiheals@yahoo.com. Thank you so much, and love and light.